Good morning, and welcome everyone to worship here at First Unitarian Church in Portland, Oregon. Our mission here is to nurture the individual spirit and together work toward the beloved community. We're so glad that you decided to join us this morning. There will be a virtual social hour after the worship. You'll see a QR code on the screen at the end of the service that will take you there. In these days, while our worship has had to return to being virtual only, there are many ways that we try to offer connection for you, and there are a couple that I want to mention here this morning. Next Sunday, after this service, Reverend Tom Disrude will offer an introductory class about the church and about Unitarian Universalism. This is a great way to meet other newcomers to the church and to learn more about First Unitarian in general. That will be at 12:45 next Sunday. And in February, we have another series of anti-racism learning circles that are beginning. These are also great ways to learn and deepen your understanding, as well as a way to connect with other folks. You can check out our weekly e-news or the website to learn about all of these opportunities. And finally, I want to offer a word about our guest preacher this morning. It is such a pleasure to welcome the Reverend Abhijanamanchi to share worship with us this morning. Reverend Abhi serves as senior minister for the Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church in Bethesda, Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C. Born in India, his long experience in the interfaith world, both internationally and here in the U.S., and his congregational practice of multiculturalism give him insights that can help this congregation live into beloved community. Abhi led our seminary for a day yesterday. What a blessing that was. We had close to 200 participants, our largest attendance ever, and most of them were from congregations around the country. Welcome to the church that is emerging from COVID. Abhi is an old and a dear friend. He has preached for us before. I hope that you will open your minds and your hearts to welcome him back. Once again, welcome everyone. Reverend Tom will light the flame of our chalice on the chancel this morning. I invite you to light your own chalice or candle if you have one with you. We are Unitarian Universalists. We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
Oh
Words of the Sufi mystic Rumi. Keep walking, though there's no place to get to. Don't try to see the distances. That's not for human beings. Move within, but don't move the way fear makes you move. Today, like every other day, we wake up empty and frightened. Don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Take down a musical instrument. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. Come now, and let us worship. Our first hymn is Wake Now My Senses, which has been specially prepared this week by Rich Shear and members of our choir community with guest singers from the West Hills UU Fellowship. We are so grateful for the ongoing efforts to provide music for our worship, even though it must be done remotely once again. Please join now in singing.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Deep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as love shows us how.
Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the white sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Make now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
Our reading this morning comes from Martin Luther King Jr., his words on beloved community. But the end is reconciliation. The end is redemption. The end is the creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opposers into friends. The type of love that I stress here is not eros, a sort of aesthetic or romantic love, and not philia, a sort of reciprocal love between personal friends, but it is agape, which is understanding and goodwill for all humankind. It is an overflowing love which seeks nothing in return. It is the love of God working in the lives of us all. This is the love that may well be the salvation of our civilization. And a short selection from Beloved, in which author Toni Morrison describes a worship service held outdoors in a place called the Clearing. It started that way, children laughing, dancing men, crying women, and then it got mixed up. Women stopped crying and danced. Men sat down and cried. Children danced. Women laughed. Children cried, until, exhausted and riven, all and each lay about the clearing, damp and gasping for breath. In the silence that followed, baby Suggs, holy, offered up to them her great big heart. She did not tell them to clean up their lives or go and sin no more. She did not tell them they were the blessed of the earth, its inheriting meek or its glory-bound pure. She told them that the only grace they could have was the grace they could imagine, that if they could not see it, they would not have it. Please join now in singing our doxology, Spirit of Life.
For this month of January, we temporarily pause our focus on climate justice to address the urgent need to protect and advance reproductive justice. In addition to the draconian abortion ban that is still in force in Texas, the constitutional right to abortion may well be overturned by the Supreme Court later this year. More than half of the United States stand ready to ban or to severely restrict access to primary health care of safe abortion services. This month, we're sharing our plate with the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice. RCRC is a broad-based national interfaith movement that brings the moral force of religion to protect and advance reproductive health, choice, rights, and justice through education, prophetic witness, pastoral presence, and advocacy. To give, you can click the donate button now on Boxcast, or you can use the QR code that will soon appear on the screen. Thank you for your generosity that sustains the ministry of this congregation and with our partners in the larger community. We make a space each week in our service to hold up the concerns of our community life together. A reminder that you can send prayer intentions to prayer@firstunitarianportland.org. Those will be held by our ministers and by our lay ministers. And if you have an intention you'd like named here in the service, send that to parishconcerns@firstunitarianportland.org. John Van Buren, brother of member Evans Van Buren, died earlier this month of stomach cancer in Stuttgart, Germany, where he lived for the past 50 years. John grew up here at First Unitarian, and he left a bequest to the church in his will. Evans was able to visit John and to be with him at his death. We hold the whole Van Buren family at this time of loss. Kathy Carter, mother of church member Amy Freeman, died in Oklahoma on Tuesday at the age of 78. Kathy had been ill with cancer, but passed away unexpectedly in a skilled nursing facility where she was recovering from a bad fall. Please hold Amy in your thoughts as she joins her family this week in Oklahoma to mourn this loss. Amy's a member of our nominating committee and sings in our music program. And a joy this morning, we celebrate with member Betsy Clark, who welcomed a new grandchild into the world on New Year's Day morning. Amelia Michael Jaggers was born in Minneapolis to Chris Jaggers and Sarah Fritz Jaggers. All are doing well. Blessings upon them. Finally, this morning, we note the death of Thich Nhat Hanh on January the 21st. He was a global spiritual leader, a poet, a peace activist. He was renowned for his teachings and writings on mindfulness and peace. A gentle, humble monk, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called him, an apostle of peace and nonviolence. That was when King nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize. Exiled from his native Vietnam for almost 4 decades, Thich Nhat Hanh was a pioneer bridging Buddhism and mindfulness to the West. We remember him and we give thanks for his life.
Holding the joys and sorrows that have been shared, holding these friends of ours and our companions in the world, and all the joys and sorrows that we continue to hold in our hearts. Let us center ourselves for a time, inviting our mind, body, and spirit into this space made sacred by our presence and the presence of the Holy, in which we live, move, breathe, and have our being. Let us begin with a deep breath. Let it come and let it go. Breathe in, breathe out. Wherever you are, I invite you as you breathe in and out to place your feet on the earth. You can close your eyes or lower your eyes. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. As we feel the earth beneath us in this moment, whether we are sitting, standing, or lying down, feeling the ground beneath us, feeling the sense of belonging that is so inherently true about our being here, right now, in this moment. Letting ourselves come into our body more fully, breathing into our body, breathing out, being held by our breath as we breathe in, breathe out, held by a love that surpasses all our understanding, the love that will not let us go, let us down, or let us off the hook. Breathing in, breathing out. Let us be guided by this mindfulness meditation, Thich Nhat Hanh. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Breathing in, I know I am in my body. Breathing out, I calm my body. Breathing in, I am aware of my body. Breathing out, I smile to my body. Breathing in, I am calm. Breathing out, I am at ease. Breathing in, I smile. Breathing out, I release. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is the only moment. Breathing in, I am calm. Breathing out, I release. Breathing in, I smile. Breathing out, I am at peace. Resting in this natural capacity we have for deepening our sense of well-being and peace and ease, our sense of calmness and release right now in our body, in our being, in this moment. I invite you to let the words of this ancient Sanskrit loving kindness prayer flow through you. The words, may all be well, may all be peaceful, may all be whole, may all be filled with the holy, may no one suffer. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Sarve Santu Niramayaha. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. When you're ready, gently open your eyes and return to this space.
Ati nubidi nil ubi anatawajahat rakaimu falhubu dini wa imani adinu bidini lubi anatawajahat rakaimu falhubu dini wa imani adinu bidini lubi anatawajahat rakaimu falhubu dini wa imani adinu bidini anatawajahat rakaimu falhubu dini wa imani falhubu dini wa imani adinu bidini lubi anatawajahat rakaimu falhubu dini wa imani Kurus.
Abhi, thank you so much for being willing to lead seminary for a day, for that wonderful meditation this morning, and for being willing to show up for this with me about leading toward the beloved community. I think that's a short version of the job description we've both accepted in our ministry. You've been a senior minister at Cedar Lane for almost 10 years now. What changes have you seen in your congregation that give you the most hope?
Bill, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to join you and Portland on the journey this weekend. First with our seminary for a day, which was just so rich and soul-filling, especially with our brother Fred Johnson guiding us through the day with his beautiful music. And for this opportunity to worship with you in this era of zooming in and out and at times feeling like zombies, there are blessings that I have found that connects us across time and space and devices. And this is just a wonderful example of how we can be together while still being at a distance, not apart, but at a distance. So I deeply appreciate the invitation. Yes, it's been almost 10 years and 24 years in our ministry. And it's been quite a journey, as you are well aware, having companioned me through many of those years, being a friend, a guide, a mentor, and colleague. And yes, at Cedar Lane, as you well remember, having preached at the installation service, which you termed a coronation, if I remember correctly, you lifted up something for the congregation to see and hold and challenge them to witness to and be guided by. In the context of your celebrating with them that they have called a person of color as their senior minister, an Indo-American, an immigrant, and pointed out that sometimes those of us who are ministers of color or BIPOC colleagues come in holding sometimes the vision and the burden of that vision, and how that vision of multicultural ministry is just not ours to hold, let alone make happen, but it is something that we work toward together. I think they heard you at some level, and I can report back after almost 10 years that we have made some good progress there, doing some good work together. We have become more diverse, especially welcoming more multiracial and multi-faith families into our midst, becoming more diverse as a religious community. And we have been engaged in living into our vision and mission, which was also created in the course of my ministry, which states that Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church is a religious community where love works, where we dare to embody beloved community, coming together to explore the eternal, nurture community, and build a more just world. A lofty mission and a lofty vision, and one that has kept us focused in the work that we have been doing. And I do see the results in different ways. The deepening work that has gone into it, difficult work, but rich work, especially in the way in which we have lived into being more hospitable as a religious community. I'm thinking of the sanctuary work that we did a few years ago for a few years with a sanctuary guest who was facing the threat of deportation and made Cedar Lane her home for almost 3 years, during which, in partnership with area faith communities and individuals, we developed a sanctuary ministry of breadth and depth that not only helped us practice what Reverend Bill Schultz calls that fragile art of hospitality, but also live into what it means to be in relationship together, working toward supporting someone who needed safe space. So that's just one example of how we have been doing this work, and also our work with the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, where we have been honored and humbled to be partnering with organizations and activists across the country, engaged in a multicultural, multi-faith coalition, coming together to rise in solidarity and work with poor people and witness to the rights and the dignity of all people. So I'm going to pause there, since I love to ramble and talk too much, and check in with you about how you feel about your ministry, which is completing 11 years at Portland.
Thank you, Abhi. You know, there's so much to say. 11 years in ministry, so many moments, so many events, so many relationships built and sustained and ended in some cases. There's so much to say, but I think of a few things to say about the 11 years that I will have spent here come June. You know, this congregation had a habit of taking church seriously when I was called. And I like to think that we've not only continued that, but actually deepened it. And I see signs of that in the number of folks who've taken the Wellspring programs. We run groups of them through every year. There's always interest and always real satisfaction in that. I think about the number of folks who participated in our lay ministry program, actually doing the ministry of the church, companioning people, being present to their lives. But I also think about the shifts that we have been able to make in our justice ministries. I think about the witness we were able to offer during the Black Lives Matter protests here in Portland, when Portland amazingly became center stage for those issues. I think about the way our social justice work has shifted from a giving, from a place of privilege, to moving into a place of really deep partnership on a number of issues with frontline communities here in Portland. A real shift that has helped the congregation here understand just how interlocked and interactive the various oppressions are. There are a number of things that I feel very, very proud of, actually, that this congregation has accomplished, whether or not I was leading it there or not.
Thank you, Bill. It's been very inspiring to witness to the work that the shared ministry that you and First Unitarian have been engaged in, and how that has provided us in the larger faith both inspiration and tools for learning in practicing the way in which we go about doing this work together. Now, you and I both share a vision of pluralism, diversity, and inclusion and liberation. And you have brought that vision into your ministry, not just at Portland, but also in your ministry to our association as our president. And you have tried to center that in the way in which you have lived into your ministry, Bill. And I wonder where you have found UU theology to be a rich resource in helping us move toward the beloved community.
Oh my, there's so much to say. Our theology is a rich resource, and I preach to my people here as you have heard me preach to others. I think about the strength of belief in our own agency and in the power of our minds and spirits to sort things out and find a way forward. That's primarily from the Unitarian side of our family tree. But the place that I draw on most is the Universalist side. Even if it was not articulated as I articulate it now by the Universalists back in the 19th century, it is what led us to believe in the inherent worth and dignity of each and every person, that we're all children of God, to use language which I also share with the people here in Portland. That's a primary resource for me. It's not without its challenges, because both the Unitarian and the Universalist sides of the family tree were really focused more on the individual than the collective, and we have a lot to learn about a theology of accountability. But there is rich resource for us to build on in Unitarian Universalism and to share. We have good news to share. What would you say the strengths in our faith tradition that you have called on most? What would you name, Abhi?
So a favorite UUA president of mine put it so aptly, Bill, when he said we pitch a wide theological tent. I think you know who that is. And which to me is a core spiritual tenet of our Unitarian Universalist faith, theological pluralism, which I see to be an outcome of our commitment to the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, though I would have preferred the original statement, which said a free and disciplined search for truth and meaning. Be that as it may, which points to our commitment to free religious inquiry, which you addressed, and our openness to the wisdom and the insight that is available from various sources that nurture and guide our spiritual, ethical lives, including other religious traditions. And I think we have learned over the years to live with and celebrate our theological diversity, which does help foster a more welcoming atmosphere in our congregations. And the point you made about our Universalist heritage, I agree. You know, the old Universalism as a communal faith, I think, guides this theological commitment to pluralism, with a communal theology where the individual is no longer at the center. And I'm reminded of something that I think it was Anne Lee Brazier who said that Universalism encourages the believer to think of their own interests as inseparably linked with the eternal welfare at the whole body of community. And I think that has been a guiding principle for theological pluralism, which I think is a rich source of our ability and commitment to not just engaging in the work of pluralism, but also building toward the beloved community.
And Abhi, we both recognize that there are strengths in our tradition. Are there thin places in our tradition that you would point to as well? Places where we need some additional maturing of our theology?
You mean you're saying we are perfect? We're not perfect? Wow, you know. Yes, there are, Bill. You know, what I just lifted up as a rich source is an area of growth for us. We are still rooted in a mostly Protestant framework, which continues to drive us to view pluralism through a particular and somewhat narrow lens. And that in turn also leads to a lack of deeper engagement with pluralism and diversity. We tend to avoid discussing them too deeply or sharing our beliefs with one another with conviction, and tend to keep it more to the intellectual level and look at theological diversity sometimes as an expression of individual autonomy. And so I think our challenge is to transform our pluralism of ideas to a pluralism of being. And that takes work, because it is easy to celebrate pluralism or celebrate diversity, as the cliche goes. It is more difficult and challenging to engage with pluralism, because it calls us to really come together to listen, to see one another, and to be able to engage with each other across our differences, to seek understanding much more than agreement. And that takes more intentional work that I feel we have to do. And how about you, Bill? What do you think about where we are thinnest in our theology?
One of the great strengths on the Unitarian side was the belief in our freedom. They understood it mostly as freedom of belief, and it had a kind of a feeling of "don't tread on me" that came with it, that was a reflection of their privilege. But what I find is that they did not take the concept of freedom where I think we need to take it today, as liberal religious folks, as Unitarian Universalists, participating in a multicultural world. They didn't take the concept of freedom to the place that understands that freedom is not freedom from relationship. Freedom is actually the choice you make about which relationships you choose to be in and which values you choose to hold dear. Alice Blair Wesley, one of the great foremothers, still around, of our faith, talked about this, and she said that the only freedom worth living for was the freedom to answer the call of love, a freedom actually to bind yourself to answer that call of love. There's a tension there, but there is in that, I think, a place that we need to go. And then, of course, there's the whole issue of forgiveness, which I believe we have a lot to learn about, mostly forgiveness of ourselves.
Indeed, an atonement, which is, again, something that I feel we have lost from our heritage, which used to be such an important aspect of our religious living together, that we need to reclaim. Bill, because of who I am, pluralism, diversity, and multiculturalism often gets centered around my race, ethnicity, and my faith tradition as a Hindu here in Cedar Lane. What has been your experience, Bill, and what have you learned that this congregation, that in your work with Portland?
It's a wonderful question, Abhi. Just as for you, because of who I am, much of the conversation here in Portland has been centered around issues of race and my own racial identity, and even at the beginning of my ministry, the hope that magically my presence in the pulpit would result in a radical change in the complexion of the folks who would gather on Sunday morning. And there has been some change, but it's far from radical. And the other thing that I would hold up is what I know that you do better than we do, which is the whole issue of true multiculturalism, something beyond the black-white paradigm, and life as a multi-religious. This is the pluralism that you talked about before. And here in Portland, I see that in some ways in our ministry. We've done historically and to this day a good job in what used to be called adult programs in our faith formation work, bringing in meditation and yoga and Tai Chi, various practices, as well as instructional pieces, learning about other religions. I mean, that's been present. And here in the sanctuary from the pulpit, I've done one service on Diwali, and we regularly recognize the high holy days in the Jewish tradition and mention Ramadan, but it's not been as much as it could have been. And that is one of the places that I hope the congregation will know that they can move to deepen their life as a religious community. It's a rich source of rich resource for them. And there are resources here in Portland that could help them in that work. Abhi, we could go on at great length.
Indeed, we can, Bill. And of course, in this mode, nobody's going to mind. They can always tune us out.
There's one question that I do want to make sure that I give you the chance to answer. Not for me so much, but for the good folks that I've had the privilege of serving for these 11 years. And that question is what these good folks should be mindful of as they call a new senior minister and welcome a new person to occupy this pulpit so many Sundays. What have you learned in your ministry that they should be aware of as they enter into relationship with a new senior minister?
That is a wonderful question, Bill, and thank you for asking me to provide that. Something you have shared with me over the years is that ministers and congregations grow together. And ministers and congregations at their best grow together when they call out the best or call in the best from each other. And when I witness to your ministry in Portland, I see that being embodied in so many different ways. And to me, this is an aspect of Portland's ministry, a ministry that has unfolded for more than 150 years now, in creating ministries of depth and breadth with all the ministers who have served them. And that goes back to your inception and continues. And I see that manifest in the incredible vision and mission that Portland has, being a beacon of hope, not just in the city of Portland, but for the larger community, the larger UU faith, and our world. And I see that being embodied in so many ways, especially in this time, in this pandemic time, your ministry, which has been multi-platform even before that term came into being, or hybrid, way before that, in which you are providing a meaningful, inspiring ministry to people around the world, and how that has grown and blossomed into this incredible way of being in the world and ministering at a time when a faith such as ours is more needed than ever before. So you already have cultivated and created practices of integrity, as Wayne Arneson would call it, and ways of doing this well, and leaning into that art, that spiritual practice of being comfortable with your discomfort together, digging deeper, especially now, centering the work of racial justice and how to go about it through the adoption of your eighth principle and ways in which I see the many programs and ministries blossoming in living into that promise, and not just making it a premise, but actually making it a practice. And I know that has been an important part of your ministry there. So my word of advice to Portland would be, keep doing all that, stick with it, learning that you are in this journey for the long haul, that we come and go, but you continue, and you continue to live into the story, the vision, and the promise that you started out with in new ways that call for you to be changed and transformed and bring that transformation into the world to bless all of us with. So I think the kind of things that you are looking for in your new minister are all great. I feel that there are lots that I feel that will continue the ministry that you have cultivated, Bill, and even look for aspects in the new minister that you have and hold so well, but also new things that they are seeking. Youthful energy is something I saw. I think those are all wonderful things that I feel you will be positioned not only to find someone, but to be blessed in your new ministry together.
Thank you so much, Abhi.
Thank you.
Tom.
Will you pray with me now? Spirit of life and of love, Spirit of justice and of joy, Spirit of hope and of healing. This road we are on is long, the destination all too often uncertain. There is so much, too much some days that would trouble. Hold us through it all, Spirit. Hold us through our beginnings and through our endings. Hold us in our grieving. Hold us in our despairing. Hold us in our loving. Hold us in our striving. Help us to be forgiving of ourselves and of others when we inevitably will fall short. Help us to bring humility and compassion to all that we do. And remind us, Spirit, remind us that we are on this journey with others. Remind us, Spirit, that we never journey alone. And Spirit, call us in all of our days to joy. Help us. Call us to sing out praises for this journey. Blessed be on this day, and amen. Let's sing together now a hymn, Sing Out Praises for the Journey.
Sing out praises for the journey, pilgrims we who carry on, searchers in the soul's deep yearnings, like our
The words of Rumi, again, to close the circle. We keep walking, though there is no place to get to. We move, but not the way fear would have us move. We let the beauty we love be what we do, because there are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. This is the day we have been given. Let us rejoice in it and be glad. Go in peace, practice love. Amen.